Hi, Laura. Hi, David, Nana, and Mark. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, we are live.
I've never done a live stream on YouTube before.
You are live. Actually. I will keep an eye on the live streaming. If anyone joins there and anyone asks questions, usually we don't get people there because our main people come to Zoom and the interaction happens here, not on the live, not on the YouTube. Mm-hmm. But if you can never say never. So yeah,
I love the haircut, by the way, Prem.
Thank you.
Is that new, or have you had that for a while?
I have had that for a while now.
It shows how long ago it was since we last saw each other on video.
Probably. Yeah. I'm thinking of going back to my long hair again.
It was very long though, wasn't it?
It was very long, yeah.
Yeah. Those days, even if I wanted to, I've got no chance. This is about as good as it gets.
You still got a head full of hair compared to many
others. Little bit. Hanging on. I'm hanging on for dear life.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I got my book ready.
Ah, yes. Has everyone got with them a book, a non-fiction book, previously unread non-fiction book?
Yeah.
I haven't, but I have a bookcase full behind me, so I should go and find one.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah. I'll just pop that in the chat, actually.
Do you think that'll be big enough?
Yeah. Maybe I can unblur myself so that you can see my book.
Interestingly, I mean, I'm about to start listening to the one before the one you're holding, Prem.
Yeah.
So it's time to think.
Time to think. Yeah, this is more time to think. I'm hoping there will be a chapter covering that book. So it's kind of, I don't know whether that will work.
Yeah.
I have not read the previous book.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, neither have I. I'm jumping on a plane tomorrow. I was about to start it. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if tonight changes anything for you.
I will unblur my background. I can show easily. So this is the book for today.
So what's the magic number tonight, Prem? How many should we wait for before we make a start?
We can start. We got how many?
Got 10 at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, let's start.
Yeah? Okay. All right, let me share my screen and not my, what is that? No, not that. Here we go, this one. Okay. You see that? So, welcome. And Prem, is there any kind of intro you want to do with regards to like the meetup group? Because it's you have a regular event, don't they? You run each month for the Telford Agile group. Do you want to do any kind of intro there before I jump in?
Yeah. Let me do that. So I started this group a few years ago when I was working in Telford, and the people didn't have a meetup to go to. In London, you see plenty of meetups, whereas in Telford, people didn't have a meetup to go to where they can see community and can learn and like that. And so I thought, okay, let me set this up, and it was in person. Probably David has been coming from the very early days to this meetup group.
Yeah, it was excellent when it was in person.
It was excellent one.
I find it more difficult to attend on the Zooms, which is ironic, but yeah. It was absolutely great to have something to go to in Telford. Agile. So thank you.
You and me. There have been some months that I had forgotten my own meetup, and then only realized the following day I hadn't started the meetup, and then that went like that. So so online, I can totally sympathize with the people who have been working all day and didn't want to log into a Zoom meeting after 6 o'clock. So that is one of the things that I am experimenting. So maybe move this to another time. Noel also mentioned that maybe move this to 4 o'clock so that people feel like part of the working day and finish by before 5 o'clock. Maybe that is something that we will experiment from the next month onwards. So I haven't lined up any speaker for the next month because I am going to experiment this. Last year we experimented with the one book a month series. So every month we had one book reviewed by somebody. So joining with that team today, Noel is going to show us how to increase the throughput of our reading books and breaking that Sendoku. And that seems like a very good start for us for this year as a learning journey.
Nice.
Over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so we are going to spend about an hour playing around with and hopefully changing some patterns that you've had for probably since you were a kid, which might sound like a grand claim, but we'll see how we go. But I've been experimenting with this stuff for a few years now, and yeah, there's some really good tips that I hope you'll get from this session. So to start with, I just would like to invite you to put in the chat, what is it, like, why are you here? Simply that. Why are you here? Why did you show up for this session tonight? So just type that into the Zoom chat and we all get a sense of what's happening. Right, David buys 10 times as many books as he reads, which frustrates him. Laura's got a pile of books to read, but I'm dyslexic and have ADHD, so it's hard to get through them. Yeah, I get that. Nana's a slow reader, reads for work only. Yeah, Dean wants to get better at retaining information from books. Nice. Prem wants to learn new methods. Jonas reads too damn slow. Christina's interested in, can't speed read. Tons of books I'm trying to read. Okay. Right. So good. You're in the right place. You're all talking about books and reading. So that's a good start. So I'm interested. Hopefully everyone has brought a book or has got a book that they can grab to hand. So it's a non-fiction book that we'll focus on today. Ideally that you haven't read before. And I'm just going to pop you into breakout rooms, or actually, Prem, I might need you to do this. So we're going to go just in pairs, just 3 minutes in a breakout room, and you're going to show the other person what book you've brought today, or tell them if you have got a problem with your video, and why did you choose that book? Or why did that book choose you today? So 3 minute breakout rooms, if that's possible, Prem. I don't think I can do it.
It's giving me, let me say, maybe assign automatically. And then I create, and if it is less than 3 minutes, I will increase the time. It hasn't given me the option to choose the.
If you, in the bottom left-hand corner, there should be a cog wheel icon. And if you click on that, in the breakout room pop-up, it should give you the option to set the time.
There is no cogwheel. I'm on Mac. That could be. That could be the
okay.
problem.
So as long as we get breakout rooms, a couple of people in each room, and then in 3 minutes, bring everyone back.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there is a cogwheel now. 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes. Automatically, it's going to assign you to different rooms. Okay. Open all rooms. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Apologies. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
We lost David. I was in a room with David. I must have said something. Right, let's try share my screen again.
I had a very quiet person in my room, so.
Was no one talking?
No.
Ah, who was it?
Oh yeah, how you doing? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, who's that?
I'm Mark.
Ah, Mark, how you doing?
I'm okay, thanks. I'm just out to
Sounds-
run at the moment, so you'll have to excuse the audio quality at my end.
Right. Okay. Interesting. I'm not sure how you'll get on with this, but you're more than welcome to stay listening to us. But we are going to ask people to actually read some content in their book, so it might not be the right one for you tonight. But
Yeah,
leave
you
that
have
up
to
to
skip over
you.
me on that basis.
Okay. So we had 10, and we've now got 9. But we're going to carry on regardless. So. Sundoku, you said it pretty much bang on, Prem, when you said it at the beginning. So it's a Japanese word. It's a literal meaning of acquiring books or reading material and letting them pile up without reading them. That's exactly what it means. So maybe this passage, I'm going to read this passage from a book and see if this resonates with you. I suspect it will, because probably that's why you showed up tonight. But here we go. There they are by the window, behind the closed door, page 48. They don't want to think about how long it's taken them to reach this 48th page. The book contains exactly 446 of them, call it 500. 500 pages. If only there was more dialogue. Not that it would make much difference. The pages are crammed with lines, squeezed between tiny margins, black paragraphs stacked one on top of another, here and there the relief of a conversation, speech marks like an oasis, denoting one character talking to another, but the other person doesn't reply. And then there's a run of 12 pages, 12 pages of black ink. It's suffocating, totally suffocating. Fucking hell. They swear, sorry, but they swear. Stupid bloody fucking pile of shit of a book. Page 48. If only they could remember what those first 47 pages were about, but they don't dare ask themselves this question. So does that resonate with anyone here?
Yeah.
It does, right. Good. So David, you said earlier you've got a stack of books. We can see you've got a stack of books behind you. But I'm curious about everyone. Who here would say that they've got 10 or more unread books at the moment? There's a few hands going up.
I've probably got 10 on the go that I've started and I'm intending to continue with.
Okay, all right. Joe's put her hand up as well. Yeah. All right. What about 20? Who's got maybe 20 unread books at home at the moment? Prem, yeah. Christina, yeah. Okay, yeah. So this is common, and as I imagine that people come into an agile meetup group are agile practitioners of some description. So us agile folk are really good at this as well. We're really good at getting sucked into, the latest book or the latest topic and buying it and leaving it unread because typically we're a group of people with a growth mindset. But it's good. We all agree that there is a challenge that we need to solve. So let's go and find out how we might start to do that. So we clearly don't have time in the next 45, 50 minutes to read a whole book. So there's 3 possible outcomes that you will get within this session. One is that you have got what you need from the book within the 45 minutes and you're happy to say, I'm done. I've got what I need. Second outcome is that you realize that the book is not going to give you what you need. And therefore, you're happy to put it down and say, actually, it's not for me right now. And the third option is, I'm really enjoying this and I want to spend more time with this author and with this book. So it's one of those 3 outcomes that I'll ask you about at the end of the session as to where you've ended up. The first thing to consider, though, is that when you choose a book, it typically is going to fall into one of 3 categories. And you should make a deliberate choice because depending on where it is on this scale will depend on how much effort and energy it takes. So if you're reading a book and it's purely for entertainment, then you're going to need to put less energy, less time, less effort into that. Versus if you're reading something because you want to understand the subject matter and the content, that is going to take more of your brain power and more of your energy. So you should make a deliberate choice about what you're choosing to read when, based on what your energy is and what you want to get out of the book. Okay. Now, this is the nugget. There are, in fact, 4 levels of reading, which come from the book you can see in the middle of the screen here. It was written in the 70s, and it's actually quite hard to read, ironically, but it's got some great content in it. But the truth of the matter is that most of us have been stuck in elementary for probably since we were at school. Because that is what we're taught at school. This is how we're taught to read as children. You open a book at the front, you look at the pictures, and you read the words left to right, every line, until you get to the end of the book, and then you're done. And as we get older, the content and the complexity of the content changes, but actually the technique that we apply to reading hasn't. So there's a mismatch. And that's why it gets frustrating and feels like it's taking ages, because the content is much more advanced, but our skill in how we tackle it is not. So this is key. What we're going to spend most of the time on today is this inspectional reading skill, level 2. This is hopefully a bit of a game changer. This is designed for when you have a short amount of time and you want to get the maximum amount of information out of the book to make a decision about whether you're going to continue with it or not. So that's what this is specifically designed to do. Level 3 is what they call analytical reading. This is if you've got unlimited time and you want to do, a real thorough kind of complete read and take your time through the content, then that's what's level 3. And level 4, which is rarely needed, is what they call syntopical. And that's where you would read multiple different books about a related topic or content, and you end up forming your own ideas and your own conclusions based on all of the different bits of information that you are processing and internalizing. But that's level 4. So not always appropriate or needed. But what we do need to do today is try and get you out of level 1 and into level 2. And even if you've heard of level 2 before and you've done some inspectional reading, that's totally fine, because we're going to really break it down into simple steps today. So where to start? Well, you've got a book with you. And so we're going to do 5 minutes, and you're going to do some pairing, but with the book. So you and the book, you're going to do some pairing for 5 minutes. And all I want you to do in this first 5 minutes is what we call skimming. So typically books will have words on the front and words on the back. And maybe if it's a big book, a thick one, I'm not sure, maybe the one you've got, David, has got like a cover, and it might have some writing on the inside of the cover. So you're going to have a look through that, what we call the front and the back matter. So you are going to quickly read through what's there. Maybe there's a preface in the book, so you're going to have a quick look through that as well. But you're deliberately not getting sucked into reading every line and every word. You're just kind of scanning through at a decent pace. If it's a decent non-fiction book, it should have a contents page. So I do want you to have a scan through the contents page. It should have, or it might have, an index or an appendix at the back, which has got kind of the keywords and phrases. So I'd like you to have a skim through of that. And if there's an appendix, then again, see what kind of stuff is in there. But the question that we're trying to answer in the first 5 minutes you're going to spend with a new book is, what type of stuff is in this book? Okay. So at this point, I'm going to invite you. I'm actually going to set a timer. There it is. I have actually got the tomato timer that you can see in the photo. I'm going to set it for 5 minutes. Put your videos off, put yourselves on mute, and I'll leave this slide on the screen. and just work your way through that, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. We're about halfway through, so if you're still stuck at the front of the book, start moving towards the back. We're not looking at the content in the middle, just looking at the stuff at the front and the stuff right at the back. Contents, index, appendix, etc. About 2 minutes to go. Okay. All right, so that is the end of the first 5 minutes of pairing that you've done with the book. So you should now be able to answer that question good enough, like have a good enough understanding of what type of stuff is in the book. And it might be for some people you say, oh, that's not what I thought it was going to be, or that's not what I need right now. And so actually I'm going to swap it for something else. totally fine. If you're going to do that, have no guilt at all about that. This is one of the other things that we need to drop, is any guilt associated with starting but not finishing a book. It's nonsense. Okay, so next 5 minutes, you're going to do another 5 minutes of pairing with the book. And this time you are inspecting the content design of the book. So how is the information in the book split up? Is it just like the passage that I read at the beginning, where you've got pages and pages of text and black paragraphs and lines with thin margins? Or is it divided into sections and subsections? Do they have a 2 or 3 bullet points at the beginning of a chapter to tell you what they're going to tell you? Or maybe at the end of each chapter, they've got some bullet points which summarizes what's in the chapter. Are there graphs? Are there images? Are there visuals? Are there photos within the content? Is there like a linear model that follows through the book? Like one of the books I read recently was the six enablers of business agility. So, you know, there's clearly 6 main chunks within that book that follow in a logical order. Or is it more just a bit of an abstract collection of ideas kind of smashed together in the book? So this time you are going to kind of thumb through nice and slowly through the content and just figure out, how is this book designed and how is the information structured and being presented to me? So you're going to be in the middle of the book, another 5 minutes, and we'll see you shortly. We're a couple of minutes in. Don't get sucked into reading the content. Okay, we're skimming and scanning, inspecting the book, flicking through quite quickly, but don't get sucked into actually reading the content. About 2 minutes to go. Right. Okay. Time flies when you're having fun, or maybe not. And actually, if not, that's a good signal for you. What we're trying to do here, you've only spent 10 minutes with the book, but you're picking up signals. Am I interested in this kind of stuff? And is this being presented to me in a way that I'm going to be able to easily digest? Or maybe it's starting to feel a bit tense and a bit frustrating. Maybe you're not getting on that well with the author so far. So we're going to do a quick chemistry check. Prem, we're just going to do 2 minutes in a breakout room. And the question that I want you to talk about when you're in that room is it drawing you in? Or actually, is it pushing you away? How are you feeling? How's the chemistry between you and the book after that short 10 minutes? Are you okay to do the breakout rooms, Prem?
Yeah.
Great. So just short session, 2s or 3s in the room, whatever's easiest.
Yeah. Add one more room. Fine. Stephen. Okay. Open all rooms. Hi. Okay. Sorry, it was for 3 minutes.
It's okay.
I didn't change the timing to 2 minutes.
All good. Not a problem.
There are still people in the.
Yeah, they might just be finishing off.
Yeah.
So let me come back over here.
Christina.
So what happens on the live stream while we're in breakout rooms?
Yeah, it must go blank. So it's a useless live stream.
Yeah, people have said before, should I record the session? I was like, probably for this one, the recording's not going to be great because there's just lots of periods of silent reflection or reading. So
yeah.
Okay, so is anyone like just pissed off with their book and they just fed up with it and they want to get rid of it already? It does happen. No one's feeling that. No. Okay. I mean, and if it does, I would much rather know that after 10 minutes than after like 2 weeks of kind of really trying to read it because someone's recommended it. So this is all about, being agile in our approach to how we're reading the book. It's like we've got a hypothesis. I think this book's going to be interesting. So how quickly can we validate that hypothesis? And if it's not true, okay, move on, next book. But it sounds like most of you are happy to stay with your book for a little bit longer. So we're going to do kind of the main chunk now. So you have to be a little bit disciplined here because whilst it's longer, it is still only 10 minutes. But I'm going to ask you to do what they call the 4 Ps of pre-reading. So previewing, this is where you're thumbing through the book and you're trying to find the main points. Like what are the main points that the author is trying to tell you? So if you've got a book that does have those summaries at the end of the chapters, just go through and read those. If it's got like a concluding chapter or some kind of epilogue at the end that kind of wraps things up, then just read that rather than getting sucked into the content in the middle. So you're trying to find what's the main point, what's the main argument that the author's trying to make. Predict, that is, given that you've already got a sense of what's in there and how it's structured, you can probably start to narrow in and focus on the parts of the book that are going to give you the most benefit, because you don't necessarily need all of that content right now. Maybe there's a specific challenge that you need help with or a specific problem. So just try and find the answer to that. It's good enough. You might find that you've read other content on a very similar topic area. So it might feel quite familiar, like this prior knowledge is all about, where you start to feel like, actually, I already got a good sense of this subject matter. So maybe you're just looking for something that's a little bit different from the opinion that you already have. But again, you're trying to tune your focus and decide how you want to proceed with the book next. So we're not assuming anything. And then the final one, purpose, like why did the author bother writing this book? What is it that they had for their purpose? So these are the things you're going to try and find out now. So you've got a bit longer, 10 minutes. So you can take your time a little bit more. But again, if you get sucked in on any particular point, that might be a sign that actually it's super interesting. But I will remind you at the halfway point to push yourselves to keep going. And ideally, by the end of the 10 minutes, you've had a real good thumb through pretty much the whole book, which I know sounds like quite a hard ask, but it's absolutely doable. But at the end of the 10 minutes, this is the question you're going to be able to answer. Is this book going to meet my needs? You brought it, you're reading it, you've got a certain hypothesis of what it's going to give you. So by the end of this 10 minutes, is it going to give you what you need? Any questions before we do the 10-minute? All right. Pop yourselves on mute. Video's off. See you in 10 minutes. We're at the halfway point. So you should be about the halfway point in your book, about halfway through. Right. Okay. That concludes the 10 minutes reading. So I'll welcome you to join us for the last few minutes of this session. Now at the start, I said within 45 minutes, you should be able, if you inspect the book in the right way, to get to the point where you can make a decision about you've got what you needed. There was a particular challenge. That's why I chose that book. I've found where in the book the answer lies and I've got the answer. Or actually, this isn't the one for me right now because it's not going to help me, or it's not giving me what I hoped. Or the third option is that you are willing to invest more time. You're quite enjoying the company of the author and the book. So just type in the chat 1, 2, or 3. Where are you? Where have you landed? Okay, wow, blimey, so good choices of books. So the thing is that we have barely scratched the surface. There are lots of other tools. This inspectional reading really for me is the key, but there are lots of other things that you can do. Christina mentioned this in the chat at the beginning, that she doesn't know or doesn't do speed reading. David, you mentioned that you have done it in the past, but there is something called speed reading, which funnily enough does and can make you read faster. There is specific skills and tools that you can use to retain and remember the key content in books, which we haven't covered today. There's loads of digital tools. Some of you might be reading on a Kindle. There's a huge amount of different things you can do in those tools that can make reading easier and quicker. And there's loads of analog tools as well, weird and wonderful things like this, for example. There you go, which is a little device called a gimbal, which you can basically put it in your book and it holds it open. So you don't have to use 2 hands to hold a book open. So you can just, but there's lots of tools and techniques that can help even more. But the key thing for me is the habit and the routine. This is my youngest daughter and 2 of my dogs. This is her routine. So in the morning before school, she will always try and be ready kind of 10 minutes before we need to leave the house. And she just sits and gets the books and reads. So she gets 10 minutes a day of reading and she's built that into her routine. So what's your routine? Again, we'll use the chat, but when do you read at the moment? Do you even have a regular reading habit? And no judgment if you don't, but yeah, what is your current habit around reading? Commuting before bed. Yeah, bed is common. I read in the evening, but only non-fiction. I find it much easier in bed to fall asleep with a good story as opposed to non-fiction. 4 chapters, a chapter 4 days a week. Oh, nice. Too little to speak of. Yeah, so you got to find what works for you. There isn't a right answer here at all. People have said they read on a Sunday in the bath because they always have a bath on a Sunday, so they read for half an hour every Sunday. Other people it's in the morning, other people in the evening, commute, whatever works for you. But in order to really make a difference to getting through more content, you do need to find that routine that works for you. I have come up with a highly scientific formula around this as well. So there's about 15 books in this stack of books. How long do you think it would take you to read those books, roughly? What your guess is? You can just come off mute and tell me. How long do you think it would take you to read those books? What kind of habit would you need? How many minutes a day do you think you'd need? 5 years, Laura or Lara? Okay, so I believe that actually with 10 minutes a day, you can get through at least 15 books a year. So this is my formula. On average, non-fiction books, I mean, I could put 10, I could just grab 10 books and it would average out about 250 pages. So based on most people reading about a page a minute, if you're reading for 10 minutes, 7 days a week, then that means you're going to be able to get through a book in about 3.5 weeks, divide that by the number of weeks in a year. And yeah, it's about 15 books. As I said, highly scientific formula. But that assumes you're going to be doing something daily, which isn't always the case. But if you can get a routine and you can get a habit, that really is the key then to unlocking much more content. When you add on things like speed reading, digital tools, analog tools, it just keeps increasing. Okay. There's a little image here, which I'll share with everyone separately, specifically about habits from the book Atomic Habits. This is a technique that I use to help me retain content. So when I've read a book, I will try and draw out the key content and make an image or some kind of visual of it. That's my way of retaining information, but I'll send you this separately as well so you can have a look.
Question now, when you do those fancy drawings, which type of reading do you do out of the 4?
Good question. It varies. So generally it would be probably number 3, that analytical reading. So if I'm enjoying a book, I'll take my time through it. But I will typically do 20 minutes, like broken down in that way. 5 minutes, is this the right kind of content? Another 5 minutes, is it just like solid text? It's going to be really hard to read. And I'll make those decisions before I jump in. But I generally wouldn't do an image like that unless I've like had a nice calm read through the book. But some books make it easier than others. If you've got a lot of newer books written in the last 5 years, they deliberately make it easier for you as a reader by having the summaries of the chapters and these bullet point lists everywhere and nice conclusions. So yeah. Okay, so in conclusion, you have rights as a reader. Well, I spoke earlier about dropping the guilt. But it's important that you realize that you've got rights. You don't have to read, right? It's not compulsory. So you have the right not to read. That's okay. You have the right to skip pages, chapters, whole sections of a book. Totally up to you. You've got the right not to finish a book. Don't feel guilty. That's nonsense. Why? You've got the right to read a book again if you enjoyed it. Go back to it. You can read anything. You can read adverts, books, magazines, medicine wrappers. Just, you can read anywhere, and it's fine to dip in and dip out. David, you said you got 10 books on the go. Love it. Brilliant. I normally got 3 or 4 on the go, and I dip in and I dip out and try and find what I need. And that's what keeps me interested. Some people like to read out loud. Someone in a previous meetup group that I did this talk for, their book club was they read aloud to each other every week. I thought it's lovely. So, but you also have the right to just be quiet. You don't have to tell people what you're reading and how many books you read. And you absolutely, as long as you own it, you have the right to make the book your own. I highlight things. I use these little tabs to highlight pages. I fold the corners. Whatever pen I've got, I'll scribble stuff in. So I encourage you to make the book your own. But remember, it's finding what works best for you. Okay, and to conclude, given that it's Valentine's Day, I've got a final passage to read to you before we close the session. By making time to read, like making time to love, we expand our time for living. If we had to think of love in terms of our busy schedule, who would risk it? Who's got time to fall in love? But have you ever seen someone in love not finding time for it? I never have time to read, but nothing's ever stopped me from finishing a book I loved. Reading isn't about managing your social life better. It's a way of being, like being in love. The question isn't whether you have time to read or not, time that nobody will ever give you, by the way, but whether you will allow yourself the pleasure of being a reader. The end. And Prem, that's it. So back to you.
Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you very much, Noel. And I'm sure all the participants here share my thoughts as well. It's a perfect ending and lovely message on the Valentine's Day. So Ook is our Valentine today. Yes. So whosoever who can come off the camera can come on the camera. Can we say like wave or clap or something? As an
yeah. What makes a nice photo for your group, Prem, is if everyone kind of holds up the book, and then if you get a screenshot of that, that's a nice one for your
Let's have the book on the camera, and let me take wait, it is, yes.
So mine is the same as Prem's. I just have it digitally.
So you just go like that.
And there is scientific as well. Yeah. Thank you. I have taken a picture. Yes, thank you. That's lovely.
Thanks very much, everyone. I hope that felt a bit weird. I know that sounds strange, but the whole point of this, the way that I've created this, is to start to break a very long-standing pattern of how you do something. So I hope it felt a bit unusual. If it did, that's good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this meetup. I hope you had something to take away from today. I'm pretty sure you got more to take away from today. Thanks to Noel. For next meetup, I haven't lined up anyone yet. I will post it on the meetup page. Do come back to see what's the next topic and who is the speaker and when is it going to be. We usually meet up on the second Tuesday of every month. I am planning to change the timing from being 6 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So watch out for the time change. We used to have a sponsorship, and we don't have sponsorship anymore, except for this Zoom meeting that is given by Media Play by Jane Johnson, who has kindly given me this paid Zoom account. Do come back for more. It's like a very, very good community we have had here. David will agree with me. The kind of community we built here, it's more than a meetup. Telford Agile meetup is more than a meetup. It's a community. So do come back for more learning and sharing and love that we have for each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. See ya. Thanks
very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.